enjoyed this week's episode, and please like this video, share with your friends and dock mates, and subscribe to our channel. It really helps us get more viewers like you.
Hey y'all! I'm a bit flustered. We've got Bella here today, and she's not happy to be here. Yeah, she is very not happy. So please ignore the whining because it's not part of the video. Today we're going to talk about our two-part epoxy paint that we decided to use for the Bilge. We're going to talk about why and some lessons learned, what worked and what didn't work type of thing. So join us as we dive in.
First, let's talk about the system that we used to get our Bilge as clean as any Bilge in the whole world. It's the cleanest Bilge in the world right now. It really, really is. So we chose WaterGuard. WaterGuard 300 coming at you. So it's a two-part epoxy. The big part down here is part A, and there's a white and a light blue for like pools, and then this is part B. So you mix two of this to one of that, and that's why we have these cups here, because Devin would take two big scoops of this one and one big scoop of this one, and then we would mix it in our bucket. We'll go into that in just a second. But we chose this because, well, let's be honest with ourselves. What do we use with fiberglass on a boat? Epoxy. What do we use with wood to prep it for like a varnish? Epoxy. What do we use to do hull repairs on a boat? Epoxy. Everything on a boat is an epoxy. I mean, yeah, you have paints and stains and varnishes and polishes and all that, right? But when it comes to these two-part epoxies, they do really, really well in a marine environment. And so our thought was, why just paint the Bilge? Let's do an epoxy coating of the Bilge. And so that's primarily why we picked this. It has a good reputation of being durable. Doesn't have a good reputation, so easy to apply like a paint, but definitely durable, and the results are fantastic. So that's what we went with. And even in a Bilge area, you can actually apply this when your surface is a little bit damp. So you're down in a deep, damp Bilge and you're rolling this on, it's okay if it's not perfectly dry. So that was another big reason why we chose this. Okay. Hey guys! Here we are. So we had to sacrifice our boat bucket to be a mixing bucket because we ran out of proper mixing buckets and we were in the middle of finishing, so we didn't want to give up. So the idea would be to take your 2-to-1 ratio, dump it in there, and then we, because it's so thick, we put this on a drill and then just whipped it up nice and mixed. Now, one thing that I was a little bit nervous about when we chose this epoxy paint is it says not to use it on materials that could flex. And we know that a boat hull, like, it does have some flex in it. It's not perfectly rigid, it's fiberglass, so it does flex. So what I wanted to test was, what happens if we flex this bucket? Does it actually crack? Yeah, it does. It cracked there. Yeah, when I put a point on it, it does crack. It's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. There's no way our hull's going to flex that much. So I think we'll be okay. But the other good news is, this is pretty satisfying. So I can do this just over a glass of wine on the dock, and we can save our bucket here.
No.
Yes! Babe, this is a good bucket.
It came with the boat. It's like
It's
probably
a good bucket.
40 years old.
It's a good bucket.
We have a collapsible one. We'll be fine.
No, we need that.
Okay. We'll talk about that later.
Okay, thanks guys. So, one of the reviews, or actually kind of not review, but like write-ups that we read was someone used these like painting pads, and that was a huge fail for us. Like, a disaster because as soon as the stuff is so thick that as soon as we actually tried to skid this across the surface that we were painting, this whole thing just tore apart, just ripped apart. And maybe that was these pads that we bought. I don't know if they were any good or not, but I would recommend probably avoiding the pads, even though you might read that same article that we did. But rollers were really, really good. This worked out great. It was kind of hard to load up your roller, and that was probably because we had this shorter nap. If you get a longer, thicker nap, that would probably be better for you if you were to try this, just because you're able to get more material on the roller itself. Now, speaking of the rollers, we taped whatever we wanted to keep. So there's 2 bits of leftovers for this. That's either going to be trash or the things you tape and you want to keep. And so anything you want to keep, definitely put a like wrap it in tape really good, because if you don't, it's just going to turn out like this and you're probably going to end up throwing it away. What else did we learn? Definitely use a respirator that's suitable for chemicals. Even with the respirator, Devin and I were feeling pretty lightheaded. Definitely should wear your full Tyvek suits as well, or some type of suit, because we basically just abandoned the project. But look what we got done. So here's what I mean by abandoned. So what happened was, when we were painting these areas of the bilge, the epoxy was kicking off really, really, really fast. The later in the day that it got, which makes sense because the warmer the temperature gets, and this is middle of the dead summer right now, so the warmer the temperature gets, the faster the 2-part epoxies kick off or solidify. So the other thing I was doing or noticing was, as we were walking around, I mean, we naturally would get wet epoxy paint on the bottom of our shoe with the booty, and then that stuff would start drying and kicking, and it started sticking to the floor in here. Look at, so that's just Tyvek suit. Here's some booty. So that's annoying. And I don't want to just epoxy over that. Here's some right here too. Like, so now I tell you what I'm gonna have to do. I gotta sand that all down. Preparation is key for stuff like this, and if you just leave it, I can't just leave it. This is a yacht of love. I can't just leave it. Freaking love this boat, so I can't just leave it. But, you know, challenges aside, and the learning curve of working with this material, so far the results have been pretty good.